But what I realized as we're going along, it was like halfway through doing the podcast with my friend, is like, God just wants to be with us. That's why he set apart Abraham. That's why he's like called Moses to lead his people out, to give them a special place, to set up the temple, and then to send Christ. Like, he just wants to be with us. The whole Bible is God making a way to be with us.
Welcome to the Juggling Life Finding Balance podcast. I'm your host, Vivian Cummins. Do you feel overwhelmed by a busy life, finding that you've unintentionally neglected your health? Do you feel sluggish or irritable because you're carrying that extra 20, 30, or even 50 pounds? If this sounds familiar, you're in the right place. My guest today has walked that path, and she is here to share her powerful story of breaking free from the chains of overwhelm and busyness, and how she achieved extraordinary weight loss along the way. Tricia Goyer is a USA Today multi-bestselling author with an impressive publishing portfolio of over 90 books and 500 articles. But beyond her literary accomplishments, Tricia is also a highly sought-after U.S. and international conference speaker, and she's been featured on numerous television and radio programs. And if that wasn't enough, Tricia also hosts The Tricia Goyer Show and co-hosts the Daily Bible Podcast. Tricia is also a homeschooling mother with 10 children, and she is a devoted wife and the caregiver to her 95-year-old grandmother. Tricia's journey is one of remarkable transformation, overcoming challenges like becoming a teen mom and later experiencing burnout from her demanding schedule. Through grit, faith, and lifestyle changes, Tricia not only regained control of her health, but she became a health coach to help others achieve the same. Today, Tricia joins me to talk about all she has overcome and how she has embraced a healthier, more balanced life. Y'all are going to love Tricia. Let's dive in. Hey, good morning, Tricia. How are you today?
Vivian, I am doing great. It's great being here with you.
I am so glad you're here. And y'all, I am so excited to have Tricia here this morning. She is one of my mentors and teachers. And so this is such a treat for me to get to interview her. But this is going to be such a great conversation. This season, we are talking about balancing health and wellness. And I wanted to have you on today because you are probably the busiest woman that I know. And in fact, I've heard you say, or maybe I read it somewhere, that at one point you were drowning in the chaos of life, but yet you were able to prioritize your health and lose weight at an age that, like many of us, they tell us at a certain age you can't lose weight, but you did it. So I want to get to your health journey and all those things. But before we do all of that, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your beautiful testimony, and just tell us what God has done in your life.
Absolutely. So where do I start? No.
Oh gosh, you have so much.
my favorite thing to share, though, when I speak at conferences, I always start with this. I grew up in California. In a town called Weed, California. Weed, California. It's up Northern California by the Oregon border. I was a cheerleader at Weed High.
Oh no.
Yes, I still have my Weed High cheer uniforms. In fact, I fit back into my Weed High cheer uniforms. But one of our cheers was Weed High is the best high you can get. So now I'm a Christian wife and mom, and
I love it.
homeschooler. Yes, but I was born to a single mom, and I didn't know my biological dad till I was 28. My stepdad was very distant. He just passed away this last summer. So it's always been, I haven't had a good, strong dad relationship. Became a teen mom when I was 17, had an abortion when I was 15, which is something I really regret. Wish I could go back and redo. The Lord has brought healing in that. But met and married my husband, John, when I was pregnant as a teenager. Started praying for my future husband. God brought me John. He was amazing. We've been married almost 35 years. And then we had 2 more kids. So we had 3 kids. And then when they were nearly out of the house, when our youngest was 15, we started adopting. Felt on our heart to adopt. So we have adopted 7 children.
Oh my goodness.
They're now between the ages of 24 and 14. And our biological kids are all in their 30s. And, if that wasn't enough, I write books. I have over 90 books published. I podcast. I love to speak. My grandma has lived with us for 25 years. And so it is a very full life. It's a very good life. It's a very busy life, but I choose not to be overwhelmed and just take one thing at a time and depend on God, and do whatever needs to be done. And 3 of our daughters right now are living in Europe. One moved there, working with the church 10 years ago, met and married a Czech guy. They have 2 Czech American children. And then 2 of our other girls, who are our adopted girls, are working with missionaries now in a Christian preschool. And they're going to be there for a year. So I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go to Europe for 12 days to visit all of them. So that's life. That's all the good stuff, all wrapped up in like 3 minutes.
Wow. You know what? You said something there that was so profound. You choose not to be overwhelmed. Okay. Tell me, how do you choose to not be overwhelmed? You got so much going on. And I have so many questions about how your day goes, but kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so this is actually part of my health journey talk. So the program that I'm doing, you get a health coach for free, which is amazing. But it was actually my health coach, Amber, who's also a writer and a speaker. She does some TV production stuff. When I started, I had gained so much weight. I was up to 268 pounds, completely exhausted all the time, taking care of everyone else besides myself. And so suddenly I'm going to start this health plan, prioritize my health, start eating right, cutting out sugar, connecting with my coach every week. And one day she gets on, we do a little Zoom, and she's like, "How's it going?" And I start listing all the things I have to do, all the things that are going on. All of my kids were not always making good choices, my adult kids, because they just sometimes do that. And she goes, "Well, overwhelm is a choice." And I'm like, I pause, like, what are you talking about? I did not understand. As we've gone along, as I've fed my body really good food, drunk water, try to get more sleep, although last night was not successful. um,
Oops.
um, as I have realized, like, and these are other things that I've learned, like, a day is just a day. It just shows up like it shows up. I may have expectations of all the things I want to get done. And that's really where overwhelm comes from. Overwhelm is only there because we have expectations of all the things we want to get done. So if we are focused on all the things we want to get done that we're not doing, and then we feel like we're behind, no day starts behind. Like, it's our mind.
Right,
Everything's in our
right.
mind that's behind. So it really is a choice. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, my friend Angela Strong, she's like, she's a flight attendant. She's like, "I'm going to be in Little Rock for the day. I'd love to see you." And I chose for that day. I have had so many things to do just to go spend the day with her. We went to the Capitol. We went to a park. We walked around downtown. And I'm like, every day can be whatever we present to it, whatever we do in that day. We don't have to choose to be overwhelmed. And so I choose not to be overwhelmed. And that means in the middle of the day, when I start feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, nope, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. I have so many things to do. Whatever happens, happens. And I might actually be on that plane. I might need to buy some things I forget while I'm over with
Right.
my daughters.
Like
That's worst. That's
toothbrush, all the
worst.
phone,
Yeah,
all
that's
those
worst
things.
case scenario. So really, it is
Yeah.
just taking each day as it comes, finding joy in it, choosing not to be overwhelmed, and not letting our mind get so full of all the worries and concerns and to-do lists that we just don't enjoy the days that we have.
That's really good. How long did it take you to get to that point?
Yeah, like a year.
Okay.
So I will say, it has been, at first I didn't understand what she meant. Like, what do you mean overwhelms a choice? But then the more I started, just like, today I'm choosing healthy food. today I'm going to get in some steps. Today I'm going to drink my water. Like the micro steps of doing things to care for myself on a daily basis. To message people. I called someone last night that I'm working on a work project with. I'm like, I'm getting on a plane in a couple days. I know you emailed me twice, and it's fine. It looks fine. But I will tell you, like Friday when I sit down at the airport, I'm going to be able to respond to you and just give people, let them know that's what's going on. I'm like, I'm not trying to ignore you. Sometimes I have to apologize a lot because people have work schedules, and I'll just say, I'm sorry, I can't get that done in 3 days. I will get it done next Friday. And so a lot of the things is, first of all, letting those expectations go that we can do all these things because it's impossible, and then just letting other people know what's happening. Like instead of feeling guilty because we can't get to that thing that we told our friend we would do, just let them know, like, I'm not going to be able to do that. This is what's going on, or something unexpected happened. I mean, it's all in communication with God, with others, and ourselves, our minds, what we say to ourselves.
Yeah, I've been having that conversation with God lately. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed with work and trying to do all the things. I'm working on my first book, and I'm doing all those things. And we were having this conversation, me and God, the other day, and he just really put upon my heart that the expectation part. He's like, "Those are your expectations. Those aren't my expectations. I just need you to do this today." And so, God only gives me like these little assignments every day. They're like one or two assignments, but yet I add to that, and then I create all of this anxiety and overwhelm. And he's like, but I didn't tell you to do that. And so you're absolutely right. There needs to be that intention of not continuing to add to those expectations. And one other thing before we move on is I'm learning to celebrate the things that I do check off my check. I'm a checklist person. I'm a
Yes.
checklist person.
Yes.
It's just my personality. And, I can go through the day and maybe only check off one thing. And then I'm like, I'm such a failure, da, da, da. I'm learning to celebrate that one check mark.
Yes. That's exactly it too. And I think also realizing, like, not to have expectations on ourselves that are unrealistic. That it's like, if we actually looked at the list and like paused, like, is this possible to get all this done in a day? Like it's not, but have expectations on God. Like God will take care of it. He will show up. So I have a perfect example. I have a children's book releasing in January with a co-author. It's called Wonders of the Ocean Realm. It's a science storybook, but for months I've been needing to sit down and work on getting the word out to my friends, asking to be on podcasts. Will you share this in the newsletter? I have not done it. It's been like 2 months on my to-do list, and that's kind of important because the book is launching.
Right.
Right. So it's kind
Right.
of important, but it's all these other things, kids and family and grandma. So yesterday I sat down, and again, I could have these feelings of guilt or like failure, but it's like, it is what it is. We'll just do it with the best we can. My co-author texted me like, the publicist is waiting for some names to send some free books to. So I actually sat down, and the first one that I thought of was my friend Heidi. She has an awesome podcast. And so I texted her. I know she had moved. So I texted Heidi and I said, Heidi, can I get your new address? And she goes, oh my goodness, girl, I was just talking about you. Like, your name was on my lips. And she goes, I was thinking of guests for my podcast. It's a huge platform. And but we're having them in person now. Can you fly up? She gave me some dates, and she also is a part of a huge homeschool resource center. Like, I don't even, thousands of kids. We could do a program here for you. We could have Sherry come, who's my co-author. And so in the matter of 2 minutes of me, like, I could have worried for 2 months of all the stuff I wasn't getting done. In the matter of 2 minutes, when I had the moment that I was actually going to do work on that, God had already gone before me. Heidi was talking about me with her assistant and saying, we
Yes.
need to get Tricia here. And as soon as she heard what book I have releasing, let's do something with the Homeschool Resource Center, thousands of families. She goes, I'll start promoting it tomorrow. Tell me what I need to do. God took care of that. So the expectation is, I have been doing what God has asked me to do. Caring for my grandma is a long process, and like 25 years, and then also daily, a lot of time. And God's like, I got you. I see you. Here you go. And so the expectation, putting it on him instead.
I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that God is, I mean, he knows where we're at. He knows we're doing the best we can, and then like you said, he goes before us and just makes our path a little bit easier. Oh, that's so beautiful. So you kind of shared a little bit already of what your day looks like. But I would love to, I want to hear your typical day. What are you juggling? What does a day of Tricia look like?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, uh, I love getting up early and I love having the quiet time where I could just be in God's word. Read through the Bible every year. And so I usually listen on my Bible app. So, first thing, get up, get dressed. I start going into the kitchen and I make my healthy breakfast. My favorite thing is waffles. A little thing of healthy waffles. And as I'm doing that, I listen on the Bible app as we're reading through the Bible. And then I sit down with God's word, spend some time in God's word, spend some time in prayer. And then that's when my first quiet like window is where I can get some writing done. After my quiet time with God, I'll do a blog post. If I'm working on a book, I'll be able to write a little bit before my family gets up. Um, I usually try to get some stretching in there, or sometimes I'll get on the treadmill, depending on if I need to like edit something. I might walk on the treadmill, try to get some movement in then. So I have a 8,000 step goal for the day, which is some people do a lot more than that. That's for me who used to just sit all day. Like that's
Yeah,
so I have,
that's
but
good.
yeah, but you have to put in like I'm gonna either put in an exercise video, I'm gonna get on my treadmill, I'm gonna walk around the block. I have to think ahead and schedule that in. And then my kids start getting up. I have some time with my husband in the morning before he goes to work. My kids start getting up. Now, I will say I homeschool and they are all teenagers, and I'm okay with doing school like in the afternoon and letting them sleep in. So
There
that's
you
just
go.
like,
It works.
that it just works. And I have adult children. People say, oh, that's teaching them bad habits. I have adult children who hold down jobs and do fantastic. And they
Mhm,
when they
mhm.
get up, when they need to get up, they get up. So then we'll work on homeschool stuff with the kids. Now I teach at their homeschool co-op 2 days a week. So when we on those days we drive in, leave the house at 9 o'clock, get there. I teach for an hour, and then they have two more classes and a lunch. So I'm usually in an empty classroom doing meetings, Zoom meetings, answering emails. I'm also because I've lost so on this program I've lost 90 pounds. And so I'm coaching now, and so I will check in with people, help them. So the the quiet moments are usually where I could actually get writing done, are those early morning moments. And then sometimes in the afternoon, like after we get home for co-op, after we're done with homeschool, like the 3 to 5 o'clock time window. And that's when the majority of my writing time is. If it's a podcast day where I do my own podcast, that's usually like a Friday afternoon. And I have assistant that schedules those. That's another thing too. People will say like, how can you do everything? Well, I have Kristen who does a lot of stuff for me. Kat, my daughter-in-law, she does a lot of stuff for me. Catherine is another assistant that I hire that does a lot of like posts and stuff for me for the daily Bible podcast. So Tricina does social media for me. I have multiple people. And for me, because I want to do a lot of things, um, I have to pay someone to do the things that are the time consuming that can't produce a book, a blog, a podcast, time with my grandma. Like, so it means I make a lot less, but also I'm able to, serve people better.
Yeah, that's a lot. I love how, I mean, that's time management right there. I mean, you're very well aware of the time that you have, and you're very well aware of what takes priority. Grandma takes priority, right? Family takes priority, and you're aware of that. And I love how you're able to balance that. You talked about you can't do it all, so sometimes you have to hire people out. I'm in that space too. I work full time. I work 10-hour days most days. I try to take Fridays as my day to do my podcast stuff too. Um, but this is a conversation my husband and I have had recently, because there may be an opportunity for me to retire a little bit early from the government. And but doing that, like right now, I've got editors, I've got producers, I got people that are doing things for me too. And I'm like, okay, Lord, you do know that if I am able to retire a little bit early, my income is going to shift dramatically. And I just have to trust that, what God orders, he pays for, and so kind of looking at that, like what's the next step going to be? But like you mentioned, it's all for God's glory. So it'll work out somehow, some way, whether he sends me somebody or maybe I could learn to do my own stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I always try to learn how to do my stuff first, and then
Okay.
I pass it off.
Okay.
Because in the case that someone doesn't show up to do something,
Oh,
I know
yeah.
how to do it. So I will figure it
Mm,
out. Like, this is the way I want my newsletter to look. This is the way I want the graphics to look. This is the way I want my email list to look. And
mhm.
then I'm like, okay, now you could do this, and this is how you do it. But if that
Very
person
good.
suddenly is sick, on vacation, has an emergency, and I need to jump in and send the newsletter, do the post, I know how to do that. So,
That is wise. That is
mhm,
very wise. I receive that.
mhm.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, the only thing I have not done and figured out is the editing of the podcast and the
Oh,
uploading where it goes. If
mhm.
something happened to Christy and Andy,
Uh-oh.
Kristen and Andy, I would like, sorry, the podcast is not happening. So,
I know. So when I first started podcasting, I was going to do all of that myself, and then it's very time consuming, Tricia. It's
mhm.
so time consuming, the editing part, and so that's when I ended up having somebody help me. So I'm kind of in that same boat too. But anyway.
Yeah, yeah, but and then I will. I only got through half of my day, Vivian,
Oh my
because
gosh!
there's like
Yes, go.
there's other
Yes.
a couple important things. We always, as much as we are able, have dinner together as a family.
Good.
And so we all 6 o'clock, that's when we're kind of around the table, between 6 and 6:30. That's a priority, which also means our kids are not in very many activities. They
Oh
haven't been.
yeah.
We usually pick one thing per child per year. So right now our son is in basketball. He's 14.
Mhm.
Which, like, tonight we're not going to be sitting around the table because we're going to go to a basketball game, but we all go to the basketball game together. We're all riding in the
Oh.
car. If it's out of town, we fill up the car with other kids. We go out of town. So if we're not like sitting around the table, we're going together. We try to
Mhm.
do that. But that means our kids cannot do 5 different things,
Right.
and they usually do one a year, and that's it. Because
Yep.
that priority of having that time around the table. And I love cooking, so I love cooking dinner. So we make a dinner for everybody, and then the evening time, that's when I have to feed my grandma, care for my grandma,
Mhm.
and so just spending that time. We sing hymns together. Just
Oh.
during the day, some days I do have people come in and they're here with her,
Mhm.
but that's just our time in the evening. In the evening, I can just have with my grandma. She's 95,
Mm.
completely bedridden, but just the joy. So,
Yeah.
and then time with our older kids. Last night I was packing and cleaning my room and getting stuff ready, and my 17-year-old daughter came and chatted with me and helped, and my husband was sitting in there. So our family is
I
very
love it.
much, we like connecting, we like doing stuff
Yeah.
together. It's not where everyone's up in their rooms or doing their own thing. We're kind of just our units wherever we go.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I have a colleague that was talking to, it's been a couple of weeks ago, who's feeling very overwhelmed and stressed. And he mentioned one of those things about the kids are all in all of these activities. And I did kind of mention it to him. I was like, why do they have to be in so many activities? Can they just choose one? I mean, and he's like, we're going to have that discussion as a family. I think we have to be careful with that. My kids are grown and out of the house and stuff, but I remember those times too when our daughter was in multiple things and I was going to college and working and all the things, and it was just too much.
Yeah, and really think about the activities. It has been what, maybe the last 50 years that we've started doing this. I'm 53. I went to dance class once for like a little short time, or Girl Scouts, but it's like most of the time you're just with your family. It's ever since maybe the last 25 years that kids have to do all the things all the time. And I, when John and I had our original three, our first three, we sat down because we were starting to do that, like this kid and that kid and everyone. And we said, what is our priority? Our priority is time around the dinner as a family, reading books together, going to church together, serving others together, how can we fit our life around those priorities that we know as an adult? We don't want to say, oh, I regret that we were in the car and in all these practices, we have this time around for family. For our January celebration, we weren't able to get everyone together for Christmas, but rented 2 houses in Branson, Missouri for all the kids, all the grandkids, and that's all they wanted. I'm like, this is your Christmas present, folks. And they're like, it's the best ever. Because we love being together now. And that's because we did make that a priority.
All right, so I want to ask. You did talk about the overwhelm, so you've learned to make a decision on that. So I'm assuming that that was an issue in the past. So how has your faith and relationship with the Lord helped you during those seasons of overwhelm and physical and mental burnout?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, and even though I say I choose not to be overwhelmed, I'll still have those days where I'm like, oh,
Me too.
yeah. So, um, reading God's word has been key to everything, and then prayer and journaling. But I remember when I first started want to write as a young mom, I was trying to fit in time, so I got up early to write, and I realized, like, oh wait, I'm making this a priority, but I still haven't made the time to get into God's word.
Oh my
So
gosh, I'm so guilty. Oh.
yeah, and so I'm like, this is my priority first. If the writing doesn't get done, and so reading God's word every day, reading through the Bible in a year has been huge. The last 3 years with my friend Michelle, we do the daily Bible podcast. I love reading through it chronologically because it makes sense. It's like the stories make sense. It's all in the right order when things happened, because the way the Bible, just the regular Bible's laid out, it has all the history books together, all the books of law together, all the books of poetry together. And so everything's jumbled up. And so the chronological Bible, you read through it as the timeline happened, and it makes so much sense. But what I realize as we're going along, it was like halfway through doing the podcast with my friend, is like, God just wants to be with us. That's why he set apart Abraham. That's why he's like called Moses to lead his people out, to give them a special place, to set up the temple, and then to send Christ. Like, he just wants to be with us. The whole Bible is God making a way to be with us. And for us to say, oh, this is cool, but I'm too busy. It's like, yeah, he just wants to be with us. And so sitting down, being quiet, listening to his word, pausing is something like, ooh, wait, that really struck something. Why is that striking something right now? Going deeper in that makes a big difference. And then just praying. And if I'm thinking about it and worrying about it, I could flip it and pray about it, which doesn't always happen. But if it's racing around in my head, it just has to go, God, you know that I need to get my office ready for these kids and grandkids who are coming back with me from Europe. And this is such a mess right now. Like, if I'm worrying about it, I can pray about it. And so, and then my grandma, she's lived with us 25 years. One thing she always says is, these are the best years of your life. And I would just look at her and go, are you joking? Like,
do you see what's going on right now?
I have screaming children, but she's right. We could choose to make these the best years of our life, walking with God, seeing him show up, seeing what he does in our days. And so if we just look at that with that attitude, like, this is going to be the best day of my life. Yeah. God is here. We are here together. Like, how amazing I could walk. And I can like sit down and use my computer, and wow, this is so cool. My friend Heidi wants me to, it's just like, if you just look at the day with that kind of attitude, it just changes everything.
That's so good. That's one of the things that God's talking to me about right now too, because I get up at 4. That's my time to read the Bible and journal and all the things. And I'm finding that I'm feeling a little anxious because I'm like, hey, God, I haven't written a blog post since like August. I should probably get one out there, right? And I have all these things that I'm not getting to. And he's just like, it's okay. It's okay. You're doing what I need you to do. I'm being at his feet versus being Martha scurrying around. So it's okay. But for my flesh, I'm still struggling with that a little bit. So I think it's one of those things, like you said before, it's intention. We have to be intentional about abiding in him, right?
And if we're not filling ourselves up with anything, what are we going to pour out to people? Like, what are we going to offer them? And so a lot of times, as I'm reading God's word, that when I talk about that little thing that struck me, like, oh, wait, that's something I need to look into. As I will take notes, I will sit down with my computer. I have so many half written, quarter written journals around this house. I found the best is just Google Docs and put a title on it
There
and
you
just start taking
go.
notes and just start taking notes.
Hmm.
And those things suddenly it's forming into a blog post from my journal instead of
Oh,
the books that I'm losing everywhere. It
yes.
ends up being, I'm like, oh, wait, okay, this is what, and God reminds me of another scripture. And then I'll go look that up and this ties together. And this is a conversation that I had with a friend. So that becomes the introduction. And so a lot of my quiet, I would say most of my quiet time goes either into a Facebook post, a blog post, or something that's going to be a book later. As I'm processing it with God, I'm thinking of who I can serve with that message.
Oh my gosh, that is so great because I'm looking, I have a stack. I have 8 journals sitting right here, and I do the same thing. That's where I'll put on their blog posts, and then I'll put the idea. I think I'm going to start doing that because I
Just
type a
open up the
lot.
Google Doc. Just open
Yes.
up the Google Doc. Okay, and it's kind of like it doesn't for a while. It seemed like, well, this is this really quiet time with God if I'm sitting on my computer. Well, it is because I feel the Holy Spirit there. Like, you know what I
Amen.
mean? It's like
Yes.
before, it's like my quiet time with my tea and my journal. Like I don't know where that image came from.
Oh my gosh, I'm receiving that. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. Oh my gosh, I want to shift if we can because I personally have witnessed your health journey. I got to when I met you, we met about what? It's been about 2 years ago, I guess now when we first met. And so I've been seeing the transformation. So I would love for you to tell us what was the turning point when you decided I'm going to take charge of my health, and how have you been able to juggle your successful weight loss with your busy life?
Yeah, so good. So there's like two kind of turning points. The first one was when we went on vacation with the family, and anytime I do any type of speaking thing, if I could take the family again, we kind of move as a unit. So I was speaking up in New Jersey, and I'm like, let's make it a family trip. Went to Washington D.C. It was July. It was hot, and I was almost 100 pounds overweight and miserable walking around. You're just on your feet, and my feet were killing me. All I wanted to do was go back to the hotel room and take a nap. Um, I was miserable. And I'm like, I have to do something. So then I came home and tried to like cut this, and that just was not that. So that was my first turning point. I have to do something. My second one was I was speaking in Texas, and my clothes that I had as a speaker were getting too tight. I was already in a 1X, so moving into 2Xs, and I'm like, this has to stop. And while I was there, I was doing a promotion video for one of my books that was coming out, with my friend Robin Jones Gunn, and I recorded on my computer to send it in, and just looking at that image on my computer, my face was so round and
Yeah.
puffy. I just looked so unhealthy. And then the doctor, it's like, you have high blood pressure, you're pre-diabetic. Like, it was like, okay. So then at that conference, I remember laying in bed as clear as day, like, Lord, show me what I need to do to lose weight. And he goes, reach out to Amber, who is a health coach, a free health coach. But I'm so darn stubborn. I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to I don't want to be accountable to other people, which is another reason why I struggle, right? I
Yes.
wanted to do it myself. But I've been by this point. So it was actually right before I saw you in California, like a week before. I was laying in bed there, and I'm like, okay, I will call Amber. And it was like, it was, it was everything in me did not want to make myself accountable to reach out to another person. But I had seen her lose 90 pounds over the course of a year and then kept it off for 4 years at that point. I reached out to her, and it has been such a blessing and a joy. She has poured into me. The community that we have is amazing, but we are so stubborn, and we want to do things on ourselves, and we don't want to be accountable to anybody, and we don't want to follow a stinking program. But,
Don't tell
but
me what to do.
exactly. But when I thought about it, like when I wanted to write a book, I went to our Mount Hermon Christian Writers Conference. I attended the workshops. I got a mentor. Robin Jones Gunn became my mentor. She checked in on me. I wrote stuff. She connected me with her agent. Like, I went to the conference again. I learned more. I made changes in my life. Like, to write a book, I had to go and be accountable and learn what to do to be successful. This is the same thing. And I don't know why we think that health should just be the solo Lone Ranger, Lone Ranger thing. But when we go to classes for this, and this isn't even classes, this is just checking out the coach that guides you and like, this worked for me, and why don't you try this? Or with a food program that's amazing and that works. And so it what I was dragging my feet to do ended up being one of the hugest blessings in my life. And so when people like, I didn't want to call you, or I'm like, I know. Like, I know, I get it. I really want to do this, but I see this over here. I know, I've been there. Like, you don't get that overweight for like you, there's a lot. So I feel like in fact, I was telling someone, like, I'm so thankful I battled with being overweight for 30 years, because I can honestly tell people I understand. I get you. It's a struggle for me too. These are some ideas to help you. Why don't you try this? We can only help others where we have been before the best. I mean, not only, but we can help others the best where we've been there before.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have so enjoyed watching your journey and seeing you. And I saw you this past, was it March, I guess, at Mount
Yes.
Hermon. And you're just so darn cute and peppy and bubbly. And and then you taught us a dance. Those of us who were in your nonfiction writing class, you taught us this little dance, and we danced in front of all of the people at the conference.
We did a flash mob.
We did a flash mob. That was so fun. Oh my gosh.
Okay,
so
but I would have never done that.
No.
90 pounds
No.
heavier, right?
No.
So what this showed me, like, because I was a cheerleader, I mentioned I was a cheerleader at Weed High, right? So I was hiding because I was like, oh, embarrassed and this weight, and did not feeling and exhausted. Honestly, the extra weight is exhausting. Like, we emotions or whatever, we're eating for comfort, which makes us uncomfortable because we're so big. I mean, it's a bad cycle. But when I started losing weight, I started getting energy back, and I'm like, there's that fun, perky girl. Like, it was like, oh, there she is. I remember. So how fun it was to be able to get up and dance at a Christian Writers Conference and do a flash mob dance. It was so fun. And now I'm reminded, like, oh, this is the personality that I am, but it was hiding under the exhaustion, the shame, the guilt of all that extra weight. And so then those emotions are there. So then you eat to comfort your emotions, and then you get bigger. Or like a lot of us, there's trauma in your life. And I had to give myself grace in that I did the best that I could with the trauma that I've had. I mean, not like big trauma, but everyone has trauma, just hard stuff, abandonment and feelings of unworthiness and people saying so, whatever your trauma is. I did the best I could, and that was my way to cope. But I've learned different ways, and I don't have to use that for coping anymore. And so giving myself grace, like, it's okay. I know you were doing the best you can, but we're doing this now. And isn't this great? So
I love that. God's been speaking to me. So I had a cancer journey, and recently had a hip surgery and all the things. And so I had put on a little bit of weight because I wasn't mobile for so long. And it's starting to come off now. Slowly, but it's coming off now. But one of the things that I just felt God talking to me about, he's like, I'm about to open up some really cool things for you, but I need you to be healthy and energetic to be able to do the things that I want you to do. And you can't write when you have brain fog, and and you're tired and you're exhausted, like you were saying. You can't travel when you're tired all the time. And so God's really been speaking to me about that. And so I'm starting to, okay, I'm ready to get back into it. And I've noticed, just as 1 or 2 pounds start to come off, I start feeling a little bit more feisty. I start finding I'm a little bit more flirty with my husband because I feel pretty, or you know what I mean. And so it just all comes together. And so, well, I'm just so proud of you, and I've just loved watching you. And I'm hoping that as we close, that maybe you can direct us and our listeners where they could find some more information so they can do that journey with you as well. Okay, I have some. I wanted to do a fun little thing as we're closing out. Some fun bonus round questions. Can I do?
okay,
can I fire some at you?
Yes,
These are just for fun. Okay, when did you know that you could write?
I won a essay contest when I was a sophomore in high school, And I didn't even realize how big it was until like they called like during one of the assemblies, they announced that it was like a winner. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I could write something.
Oh my gosh. Even back then. Now, did you start writing at that point? When did
No,
you
no,
start
no.
writing?
Okay. So then that at that point, I was in the church nursery with my friend Cindy, and we both had little toddlers, our firstborns, toddlers running around. And she says, "I'm working on a novel," and my like heart exploded like fireworks. Like I want to do that because I love to read, and so I still didn't know that I could write. In fact, I couldn't write. I was a horrible writer. I had the desire to write, and as I went to conferences after that to learn, I said, "Well, God made me love to read," and I've had little tiny successes like that whatever county writing contest. I just felt like He put it in me for a reason. So even when I couldn't write and got tons of rejections, I felt like I could write.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's fun. Okay. So you mentioned earlier you got what, 90 books out published?
90 something. I've lost
90
track.
something out of all the books that you have written. Okay, here you go. What is your favorite book and why?
Oh, this is like a favorite child. Okay, I'm going to say the first one that came to mind because so the book that is releasing in June is called Flight of Fate. I wrote it with my 30-year-old son. It's a World War II steampunk fantasy.
Oh, wow.
And it's set in the Czech Republic, which is my favorite country where my daughter's a missionary. It has World War II true stuff, which is my favorite subject. I got to write it with my son, which was a joy. But it has Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii, because it actually erupted in World War II. And it has a mystical, historical artifact, which I love, all the artifact stuff. And it has the mafia.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Italian mafia was like, I don't know if we would have won World War II without the Italian mafia, and no one is talking about it. I was interviewing a historian from Naples. He's a curator. He does tours in Pompeii. He's an archaeologist. And I was interviewing him about this other Mount Vesuvius stuff. And he said, "Is there anything I should know?" And he goes, "Do you have the mafia in your book?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So at this moment, Vivian, like I am so excited about this book because it's new. If I were to go like with all my books, From Dust and Ashes was my first one where I got to interview World War II veterans. So that was like that would be my all time From Dust and Ashes, interviewing those veterans, interviewing Holocaust survivors. But this one, because it's new, fresh, and super fun, and I cannot wait for people to read it, and I got to do it with my son, is like at the moment my favorite.
I have a book that you signed. Again, it's like a favorite child. It's hard to choose, but you had wrote a book called Every Little Win with Todd and Brooke Tillman, and I purchased that book because I like biographies and autobiographies and things like that, and I got you and Todd to sign it for me. But that, and I've got it right here. I'll just show the. It's got your name.
I
on
got
it.
to
You got
see
it?
I got to see them 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
They
you
came to
did.
So for their anniversary, they always travel someplace.
Yes.
And I had just been having to text them about something else because you know what? It's our anniversary. We'll come over see you all. And so they came over.
That is so
It was
fun.
We went
So
out to
fun.
dinner with them and hung out with them for that evening. And they are like, you have to meet Brooke. You and Brooke. Oh my
I'm trying
word.
to get her on the show. We've connected, but we haven't fully connected yet.
Oh. You both are little Spitfire cute pistols. You
Oh
guys
my
would
God.
have the funnest time. Like seriously,
We'll
they
probably
are so
just
fun.
talk over each other. Nobody
You
will
probably
understand
would. You
anything.
probably would. But I'm telling you, it would be like if the two of you were in the room, I don't even know what to do.
Oh my gosh, watch out. Watch out.
Watch out.
Well,
Yeah.
that was again, it's very hard, but I really I love this book, and just so folks know, so Todd Tillman is the season 8 winner of 18, 18 winner of The Voice, and so worked with Blake Shelton. And so Tricia, you reached out to him because he has a great story, and you wrote their story. But I love that so much because I at the time I was writing my husband's story, and I still am. That still has a place on the shelf, but this just really spoke to me how how you interviewed and you were able to pull their stories together. So anyways, that's a sidebar.
It is so fun. They're so fun. And that's what I love. Like God's like, here, try this. Here, you get to meet these people.
You do so, yes, you do so much. And so, yeah, and that's one of the things I love about you, how you're able to write anything you want, pretty much. I mean, that's what a gift God has given you. Okay, couple more I'm going to throw at you. What is your most proudest moment to date? You've accomplished so much.
My kids, like my kids.
Yes.
I mean, all of them. My daughter, this is a story. So she teaches at a university in Olomouc, Czech Republic. And so when I'm going to be over there next week, she wants me to come and teach in her university class. And she was talking about the theme and the lesson plan and what she had set up the day. And I'm like, hold on. This is a proud homeschooling mom moment as you're telling me what you're going to be teaching and how I can help you teach at an international university. I mean, that it's just like moments like that, or seeing even my kids that are struggling in dyslexia and lots of stuff from being adopted from foster care. Like to see them, I have two of them in Europe, and then just see my kids at co-op, seeing them interact with people and sit in class. Like when we got them, we're like, we didn't even know if that was possible. So I don't know. Like there's a lot of things. There's awards and there's all these things, but these are people that are like impacting the world. So for sure, my kids.
Last question, bonus question. What do you do to spark creativity?
I love, there's a couple different things. I love watercolor painting. And
Oh,
so I pull out watercolors and like something about like creating art, like gets my mind open to think about ideas. I also love, most of my stuff is based on like, especially fiction, like a true story. So I'll like pick up an autobiography, a historical person. I'll go on YouTube and look something up, and then my mind just starts. So I start kind of the research path, or so this depends if I'm in a mode where I want to act on something, I do the research mode. If I'm an act where I just need rest and let my mind be open to create, I'll pull out watercolors and just kind of like enjoy the moment, and then my mind has space to kind of be creative.
all right, Tricia. So we are coming to a close. I hate that. I'd like to keep talking, but I know you got stuff going on today and you're leaving tomorrow. And so, what word of advice do you have for that woman who's listening or watching and she's juggling all the things? She's at a loss how to get through just another day. What word of encouragement do you have for her?
Yeah, for sure. Realize like God is there in every moment and we don't have to do it alone. I think sometimes we think we have to figure it all out. We have to make the plan. We have to follow the list. And he's like, I'm here. I can help you. And he can do in 10 seconds what you've been striving to do for 10 years, and just turn to him. One of my favorite things, Henry Blackaby said, see what God is doing and join him. So we don't have to figure it out. We just have to join him where he's already working, and let stuff go. Let stuff go. It really, um, if you're doing something out of regret, or if you're doing something because you feel like it's a duty, you should. If you have should or have to instead of want to, get to, look at those things. Do you really need to be doing them? So that's kind of a long answer, but yeah, turn to God and let the stuff go.
I feel like that's a t-shirt. Let the stuff go.
Let the stuff go.
Let's start making those t-shirts, passing them out. Oh, thank you so much. Well, tell us how our audience can connect with you. Can they follow you? Can they learn more about your health journey? Where can they get your books? What's the latest book? I mean, tell us all the things. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So my website is just triciagoyer.com. It has, I would say, almost all the things. I don't have health coaching on there because that is like, I don't want to invite 5,000 people to come and do this but I'm going to give my personal email here, because if you are listening to Vivian and you've made it this far into the podcast, you are someone that I want to work with. So you can just just email triciagoyer@gmail.com and just put like, hey, I would just love more information about free health coaching. And that's how they can connect with me on that.
Thank you so much. We're going to stick all
Yeah.
of that in the show notes. Tricia, I always love it when we can connect. You are one of my most favorite people, and I just love you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day and joining us and sharing your journey and all the things. I know this is going to inspire so many women.
Thank you, Vivian. It's so great being here, and I always love you. And you're so fun and such a joy to be with.
Oh, thank you so much. Enjoy your kids. Have a safe flight. And listeners, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Juggling Life Finding Balance podcast. Until next time. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Juggling Life Finding Balance podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a 5-star review and comment on how it's blessed you. And please come visit me on my website, viviancummins.com, where you can get your free Restoring Balance study guide and more resources that will help you move that needle from busy to balanced. Until next time, be blessed and stay balanced.